Eddie,
What's happening?
what's up, buddy? How's it going?
It's been a fabulous week, and I'm going to brag for a second and say we got a 10:04 tea time tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, and all the bad weather has just gone through. So I'm living large for the next 3 days.
How much you get paid to do that?
I get paid pretty well. It's pretty good. And then I got to work a normal week next week, and then the following week I am going to see the kid, and then the week after that I'm going to Toronto for the summer meeting for ASHRAE.
All right, man. Well, look, everybody's out there. This show's duct leakage, right? That's what we're discussing this go around. So this is all going to be about duct leakage tonight. I've got some good content. I've got really good video. So anybody out there watching, prepare yourself because it's going to be a long one. This is a 10-minute video, but it's a lot of data. So, let me know when you want to jump into it, Ed.
Okay.
You want to jump into the video now, and then we discuss that video?
Think we should save that for a bathroom break in a little bit. We don't have to be staring at the screen when it's playing, correct?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
All right, so let me go into the details of this test. So this was the conversation. Back in the day, way back in the day, like when I was doing, Joval was everything, and that's all you did. Right. Me and my dad would do a lot of jobs, and we would use duct tape.
I got to stop you already. What's Joval?
Joval's a name brand for metal snap lock pipe.
Okay.
It's the brand that was in our area. So it kind of just became what we called metal snap lock pipe.
Okay.
And we used to tape all the seams up with duct tape. Right. That's just what we used. We didn't research it or anything. And so, there's been a lot of talk about duct leakage, right? So I was wondering, how do the different tapes perform for duct leakage, right? So later on in life, I started using the masking tape with the gray sticky stuff, right? But then it's like, I basically went on this rampage. Dustin said the Louisiana brand. That's right. So I had to go on a rampage, had to test this out. But I also had to build this smoke box, which I should have brought it in here. But I built this smoke box so I could, verify the leakage, see what it looks like. And I got this idea from Doug Crawl. Doug Crawl built a pretty awesome smoke box. And I was like, man, I got to do that. So I built a wooden smoke box and put a fog puffer inside of it. So I, could smoke out the duct system and see the leakage. That way I could measure it and I could see it. So once I got the box built where it was airtight, which, man, that was a heck of a challenge, right? I don't know if you ever tried to seal a wooden box, but I used caulk. Caulk would not do it. I mean, I literally took 4 tubes of caulk, and I'm in there with my hand, and I'm just caking it in there. I let it dry. I went in there with caulk again, everywhere, let it dry. Still wouldn't seal. So I finally went and got some mastic with the fiber in it, painted it over on the inside, and then I painted it again with mastic. And not only till I did that could I get the smoke box to be airtight. So if you're going to watch this video, realize that this smoke box is airtight, right? Or it's airtight for the pressures we're testing at. All right, so I had to lay that down before people watch this video because I'm trying to set the stage because a lot of work went into this, right? I'm pretty proud of my box, okay? So, all right, here we go, man. 10 minutes. Prepare yourself. Go get you a drink if you got to. Come back. You're about to watch a video of duct testing. Now, if you're really sharp, you're going to see the mistake I made because I had to repeat this test thanks to Steve pointing out my flaws. So here we go. You ready? Today's test had to go outside because I made a homemade smoke box, and that's it. Word to the wise, don't use caulk. I caulked the inside of that box 3 times over, no good. Had to get in there with a bucket of mastic, paint it up twice over. That's the only way I could get that box to seal under pressure, was with using mastic. So if you're gonna make a homemade smoke box, use mastic. All right, so what's going on out here? Here's what's happening. We are gonna determine the duct leakage when you connect flex to a collar. We're gonna use the various tapes and panduit strap that we normally use in the trade. And on this board right here, we're gonna measure that leakage. We're gonna measure it at 0.1 all the way up to 0.5 inches of water column. Not only we're gonna measure it, we're gonna smoke it out. We're gonna see what that leakage looks like. We're gonna determine, is it significant if you just do a panduit strap, or is it not significant? We're gonna find out. Okay, this is the one I'm probably the most interested in. This is the mastic tape, has no writing on it, but it's got the really sticky, it's sticky gray stuff. It's like rat trap tape is what we used to call it. I put this on a lot of duct connections. I almost put this above painting it with mastic personally. So I'm really interested to see how this turned out, and I hated to do this to my brand new smoke box I built because I know getting this off ain't gonna be nothing fun. But we gotta know, right? So mastic tape's on there. I'm hoping to see no smoke. Next up, panduit strap. Okay. Sure tape, duct tape, UL listed, right on the writing. Okay, time to run out the silver tape. This is silver tape, also made by Sure Tape. Yep, no UL listing on the tape. Not sure if it's UL listed or not. But anyway, that is the silver tape in typical silver tape fashion. Slice my thumb all the way across. Wonderful.
Okay, next up on the chopping block is the black tape with no letters on it. It is made by Sure Tape. I'm not sure if it's UL listed or not. It doesn't say it on the inner wrapper of the roll, but it's pretty sticky. Like I'll say like 5 times stickier than the gray stuff. Okay, next up is this gray duct tape. Really interested about this one because it doesn't even feel that sticky. And this may be embarrassing because I did a lot of jobs when I was young. And I used this tape over Joval pipe when we used to run like nothing but Joval pipe. So I hope it holds up, and I hope it held up long term. Kind of hate to see this one. Okay, here goes the test with the painter's tape. Okay, duct leakage testing complete. Here's what we learned. Using ring 4s, which will measure significantly low, we could not measure any duct leakage on any of these tapes, which is surprising because I would have thought this gray tape would have been super leaky. Now, the real question here is longevity, right? If you use the gray tape or the Sure Tape, how long is it going to last before the glue breaks down and it starts to separate? That's the unanswered question here. So in this case study, I would say all of these materials work good up front, but which ones are going to hold out for the long haul? That's the interesting part.
That's my hard work right there, Ed.
Yeah, I am surprised that there was no measurable leakage. I mean, obviously we could see some smoke.
You could see a little bit of smoke, and with the ring 4s, you could measure down to like 1/10 of a CFM, right? So it's a little bit of smoke, but I couldn't measure between the DG 1000 gauges. So here's the catch, right? One's a homemade ring 4. I spent some time on it, but it's close. And then I had the real ring 4. So talking to Steve, and this was accounted for, just to let everybody know, because you have 2 different flow sensors and they're not exactly the same. What I had to do was get the machine airtight, and I'm talking like as close as I get to airtight. And then I benchmark the CFM flow through the real ring 4 and the other ring 4. So let's say if I had 5.3 going through ring 4, number 1, and 5.6 going through ring, the homemade ring 4 on the end. Then I had about 0.3 CFM difference. So I had to establish that. That's why I put the pictures on the screen and established the leakage measurements and didn't do a close up on the gauges, because I didn't want it to be like super confusing to say, hey, there's no leakage, but there's a difference in the number, right? The difference in the number is the difference in the flow sensor and how they're measuring. So I didn't want to do that. It was going to be confusing. So that's why, if everybody wants to know, that's why the picture's up on the screen in the video explaining the leakage there. I did go for a ring 5. So there's a homemade way to do a ring 5, which gets like half the size of a ring 4. So we could read super small. Steve has a spreadsheet for it. And I went there, but by the time I was getting that low, just being outside and the wind from outside was just like impossible, because my reference was bouncing, right? My reference is bouncing. I couldn't read it, right? It's like you got to go get in the laboratory indoors, no wind, no nothing, and then you could probably pull that off. But I couldn't pull it off outside. But going back to the whole point was, is it measurable? Does it matter, right? Or does it not matter? And here's what I would say. You notice the smoke box, right? It's full of smoke too. Nothing's coming out of that. So if you don't want any leakage, right? I'm basically saying mastic's the way to go. That would be my statement. I would say at the end of that video is like, mastic's the way to go, because there's no smoke coming out of the box. Everything else, even to the mastic tape, has smoke coming out of it. But the significance of the smoke, could come up to play. What do you think?
I'm listening to everything that you're saying, and I'm thinking about all the time I wasted doing stuff that didn't help. And what I'm talking about is all the mastic smeared inside the flex before it went on the collar and all that stuff. Because traditionally what we did was mastic inside the flex, stick it over the collar. Obviously you had to have the collars with the bump. And I know there's a real name for that. I don't know. We always called it the bump. But you get it over the other side of the bump, you would use a panduit strap. And I think that's kind of funny that you call it a panduit strap and I call it a panduit strap. But I had to ask you what you were talking about with the metal pipe with the name that you call it there. But
yeah,
use the panduit straps forever. And then if I'm going to tell the truth about things, I was always very adamant about not wanting to squish the insulation. So even though we weren't supposed to, I still used duct tape. And I would put the vapor barrier up to the ductwork, and then I would put one wrap of duct tape that would overlap, and then I would put 3 screws in it. And I'm going to say, even if that duct tape deteriorates over time, I got 3 mechanical fasteners in there, and it's not going to come off. Is that the right way, or am I going to find anything that will say that I did it a good way? Well, I think the only person I have to satisfy that was me. And I was satisfied that it wasn't going to come off. And I was always concerned about pulling the flex tight and all that kind of stuff. I didn't know about the landing zone that Neil taught us about a month or 3 ago, with using 2 pieces of pipe and shoving them together to pull your flex tight and all that kind of stuff. So
Eric makes a good point.
We were always chasing leaks. We had a duct blaster running on some of them and going around with the mastic and sealing everything. But I think at times we were laser focused on something that I'm seeing now really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think Eric makes a good point that I was reading in the comments. He says, what about the small leakage from a condensation standpoint of view, right? If there's a little bit of smoke, there's obviously some leakage, and that's going to make, condensation. He's got a good point there. Even though it's like super low and not measurable to the 10th of a CFM.
I'm assuming the concern is fiberglass getting wet and not being able to insulate as well. Yeah,
I think, that's what I'm thinking. Or just, you don't get a good insulation that hits home, right? Get a crack in the vapor jacket. I could see that.
Oh,
there could be some concern there.
I got to show off how smart I am too. I just realized if I click the comments, that's what you're talking about. I had it on the private chat, and let me see. Oh, wow, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here.
Yeah, man. Join in the party.
Oh,
All right, so I've got some more good data. Ready? So we did some research on this because actually my wife brought this up. My wife's like, it'd be really good if you dug into those tapes and see how long they would last. I was like, you know what? That's a good idea. So I did dig into those tapes. I actually emailed SureTape and got a response. They didn't have any documents showing longevity, so I had to default to their papers online. So I got some fun data for everybody. They want to see this. Let's see. All right. So here's the duct tape with no UL lettering on it. And you'll notice it, well, what I'm about to get to in the third tape is really interesting, but nothing on the left side of the screen for this tape says that it's like a lifetime kind of product, right? So just kind of pointing that out. Then I go to the next tape, which is the duct tape with the UL lettering on it. And, there's nothing there that says lifetime. But when you get to something that has a foil back on their tape products, it says indefinite product life after application. I thought that was interesting. When they emailed me, that's what the guy actually told me. He says, hey, if you were looking for longevity, he goes, go with something foil back. He goes, that's what you need to go with if you want, something that's going to last long term. It's interesting he said that. So moving forward, right, here's their article. I'm trying to remember what I was snapshotting here. Because he recommends a UL listed tape, right? That's straight from the SureTapes website. Now, hang on. Here we are. There's an article, and I'll tag it in the notes if everybody wants to read it, right? It's someone did the same test I did, but they did it in a lab, right? Lawrence Berkeley National Labs basically kind of executed this test, right? It's old school. It's 1998, and it says, can duct tape take the heat? And they basically analyzed, a bunch of different tapes and how they would handle the longevity test. So I read this and I made some notes, and I put them down here. And they basically said like flex ducts rated for about a 15-year life. I never really heard that before since I read the article. I didn't know there was a time limit to it. The tests performed were baking, cycling, and aging. A failure consistent of 10% leakage from the initial test. At that 10% leakage, that's when they say, hey, this tape has failed. So just let everybody know that's the failure rate for this test. This was interesting. It says, if you install a fabric tape, duct tape, it's only UL listed if you put a clamp on it. So being the duct tape's UL listed, it only gets the UL rating if you put a clamp on the duct tape. I thought that was interesting. In a nutshell, basically, they say duct tape it doesn't last. This article really beats up duct tape. And it says, we found that there is no correlation between sealant longevity and UL listing. That I thought was really interesting. What do you think, Ed? Now, how do you feel about your
I got 10 questions for you.
Okay.
Pull that back up.
All right.
And I also want to address some stuff in the chat. First things first. I remember, go back to the home energy thing. Home energy, and I remember back in the day physically getting the magazine because I was sealing ductwork, and to bring all this stuff full circle. And I don't know who it is, and apparently some of you guys have figured out who each other is with the, it says Facebook user. The last comment that I'm seeing on my screen says white mastic with a question mark. When I first started putting mastic on duct systems, it was white mastic because they didn't start putting the coloring in it to make it gray. In fact, the stuff that we first started using was the same product as the hard cast that you put on the insulation that you would typically see on chilled water piping. And that's what we started doing the masticking with. And this goes back pre-duct blaster. We were doing the subtraction method with a blower door to estimate duct leakage and all that kind of stuff. But anyway.
You talking about the mesh tape with the holes in it?
No, I'm talking about, you've seen chilled water piping. and they have a fiberglass insulation with a corrugated outside. It's almost like cardboard vapor barrier on it. You with me?
I've seen a little different than that, but
okay. Well,
I've only seen like the the loose insulation they pack it, and then they do like the hard foam around that, and then they put a shield around it.
Well, the stuff that we used to see, and it was the same product. It was Hardcast, was the manufacturer's name. It was fiberglass insulation with a cardboard, a waxy cardboard outer shell that had a slice in it, and you put it around the pipe, and then you used this Hardcast product. It was white mastic, and that's how you sealed it. Well, that's what we were sealing ductwork with in the beginning, because there wasn't a product that was known as duct mastic then. And when mastic first came out as mastic, it was white. So I don't know if what the comment in here, what they're talking about or what they're questioning, but yeah, white mastic was a thing. It was also before we knew to use paintbrushes. So often our white mastic was slightly pink, because you took your dipper and you put it in the bucket and you smeared it on the ductwork. That's
by hand.
Yeah, that's and if it was really far away, you used your dipper extension, right? That's an old John Tooleyism. But we worked with guys that used to use the dishwashing gloves, and it's just that time of the year now. They'd be sealing ductwork up in the attic or whatever, and they'd come down and they'd go like this with their arms, and the sweat would just pour out from the gloves. It was a thing. But anyway, my original thought was that was back when we used to physically get copies of Home Energy Magazine. And my question is, when you researched this article, did you have easy access to the article via the Home Energy website, or is it a subscription thing, or is it?
Steve told me about the article when I wanted to do the research and make the video. Steve was like, "Yeah, that would be really good." He's like, "There's actually a test out there." He said he went to a webinar or something, or he was at a show one time and he heard the presentation on this, and so he knew it was out there. And to be honest, he sent it to me today, so I had to like crash read this to get it ready for the show.
Oh, this is the one you were talking about. You just got done.
Yeah, I was like literally writing show notes like this afternoon. So I fast read it. I'd like to read it a little bit deeper, and dig into it. But I was showing Steve the video, and he was telling me he was bringing this up, and he sent it to me today. He's like, "Hey, you should read this. This is kind of what you did, but in a laboratory setting." So it's cool stuff. But I don't know. That's all the content I got, man. That's my homework for the show. What's your homework for the show?
It's going to be a tough one. I mean, I can.
Where's your original duct blaster, man? You could show that off.
I don't know if
I'll
I got
pull this now.
Let's see. I don't know where. Actually, I do know where it is, and I got pants on, so.
Dustin says, "I did a weighted test on UL versus non-UL because an inspector failed my non-UL tape. The non-UL held better." Dustin, I would say same thing, man. I know you've probably ran in my area with seeing the same tapes. I would say the mastic without the lettering, that's gray and sticky, versus that stuff with the black stretchy. You know what I'm talking about. I don't like that stuff, but I like the sticky mastic tape. It's good stuff. Look at that thing, man.
That's what the original one looked like.
Nice. What do they call it? Is that the Model 2? Model 1? Nobody knows.
I've always just referred to it as the white one, and it wasn't until Steve pointed out that I had the original one that I noticed that the other ones were black. I just never paid any attention to it.
So when's it been calibrated?
It hasn't. And Steve sent me, shocker, a spreadsheet that I can use. And if I use the DG1000 with it, there's a little bit of a correction that has to be done for it. But I
Okay.
have my original DG2 that I can use with it. And I'm going to call it the downfall. And it's really not a downfall, but the inconvenience is I have to use the blue chart that's in the bag to determine my leakage, because the original digital gauge didn't give you a CFM of leakage when you use the gauge. It gives you, your test pressure, and then it gives you the flow through the fan in pascals, not in CFM.
Yeah,
So,
you gotta go to the chart.
yeah, and let's see. Showing off that I have pants on again. They're not even really pants, but let's see if it.
Doug knows. He said it's a Model A. There you go.
Man, I would have been better prepared.
You're
No,
good.
I wouldn't have.
House says the white mastic.
This is where it was actually supposed to be, in the pouch on the side. This is what I'm talking about. Get that so there's no glare. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but that's how you use the original duct blaster. And to put things in perspective, when that duct blaster was purchased, it came with analog gauges. They were Magna Helix that are attached to it. And the DG2 that I have, that was the first digital gauge that was available that we could purchase. But it's just
sounds like what you're saying is we don't know how good we got it.
Yeah. That's would be a good way to put it. I'm also looking through. I'm going to have to complain to TEC, the original.
obviously the glue's not holding up on that.
It's probably the same glue that they use with that duct tape.
That's right.
How easy was that to tee up? But I've done, and it's been, let's see, the kid's been gone. It's been 3 years since. Yeah, it was about a year before the vid. So the last time I did a duct leakage test, she was my encourager with it for a couple of years there, because locally, I'm going to say we got 1 out of 3 municipalities actually enforce the duct leakage testing. It's part of code in my state. And I've struggled doing testing for people. And it's very difficult when it's somebody not only that you know, but you're friends with them. And they're like, I need this test done. I'm not going to buy one of those things. Well, and the inspector is busting my stones about it. No, they're not. They're enforcing the code. I just stop complaining about it. I mean, what, they made you use R8 insulation in the attic? Shut up. So I got into the habit very quickly where I would say, sure, I'll come out and do the test. And it's X amount for me to be there. And that includes up to an hour and 45 minutes. And you're going to pay me when I show up, or I'm not doing the test. And I joke around a lot, and I'm not kidding. So I would get paid in cash when I arrived, and they're like, why are you so adamant about this? I'm like, have you passed one of these tests yet? Well, no. Well, you're not going to pass. I don't care how good you think you are at sealing the ductwork. It's not going to pass. And the best thing you can do is have me test it during the rough, not at the final. And this goes back to the 09 IECC, because the original requirement per the energy code was.
We were just looking into this today. I was actually talking to Eric Kaiser about the standards.
Yeah.
And I thought it was 4 and then 6
and then
in a rough in situation.
And then 8. And then I think it went up to 12. Don't quote me on that.
12
but I think
was post-construction.
Right. And they gave you the option of doing a leakage to outside test, which the leakage to outside test, well, you had to do a duct blaster and a blower door simultaneously. And if I had my way of doing things, that would be the way it is right now. I think the idea behind.
You think we should do duct leakage outside tests right
Yeah,
now?
I do, but it's not going to happen because with the, I'm, well, privy to, but also have participated in one of the working groups that's working on the current standard. And ACCA's position is they want a balance test to be used in lieu of a leakage test if the ductwork is inside the conditioned space. Because the powers that be, I'll call them, in the 21 code, it doesn't matter where the ductwork lives, it needs to be tested. Now, I don't know if that's been implemented in any markets yet. It might not be actually required until, so if it was 21, it would be what, 24? That all ducts need to be tested, and it's still the same 3 or 4 CFM standard. The idea of do a balance versus a leakage test inside the conditioned space made it so that contractors who already owned the equipment to do a balance wouldn't also have to buy the leakage tester. It all sounds pretty good, but the idea behind the testing them inside the conditioned space was if we know that we don't have that much leakage, then the air should be going where it's supposed to. And then it turns into, well, I don't want to do a balance and a leakage test. I want to do one or the other. And my understanding right now is the balance in trade for the leakage test is probably not going to happen. Now, this isn't secret information or anything that I'm sharing. This is information that if you know somebody that's been involved with these discussions, it's where it's public knowledge is basically what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And I see Dustin said 12%, and that number sounds right for me for the biggest number because I think it went in.
Yeah, post-construction, I think was 12%. I just looked it up today in case anybody's curious, and it was rough-in standards when the ductwork's outside the thermal barrier. It's 3 without the air handler per 100 square foot of living, 4 with the air handler per 100 square feet, 4 CFM post-construction with the air handler. And then if your ductwork's inside the conditioned space, they allow you to go to 8 CFM.
That sounds right.
Post-construction.
And if you're doing
right, man.
energy,
right.
What's that?
I said it's right, man. That's part of my. That's one of my train the trainer slides next week.
There was a period of time, and this is, well, I'm guessing. But there was a period of time where Energy Star allowed a little bit more leakage, which always surprised me because Energy Star had an 8 CFM leakage, and that was not to the conditioned space. That was
wait. Energy Star had a higher leakage rate allowable than the actual IECC.
Yep.
How does that work out?
I don't know, and I don't want to. Well,
we won't get you in trouble.
I opened the trunk. Energy Star has some stuff where their standards aren't as high as following.
Well, I'm going to cut you off right there.
Yeah, and I was always very surprised. Now,
yeah,
same thing with the HERS Raiders. There are things that they'll
I'm going to cut you off right there.
Well, no, it's the way stuff is, because if you follow the prescriptive path, you're following what is written in the code book.
Yeah.
But that's just one path. There's multiple other paths. And the idea behind these scores is if you do something extra good, then you're allowed to do something else that is not as good as the prescriptive path. So I don't see anything wrong with it because at the end of the day, it should end up being a home that consumes less energy. They're just following a different path to get there.
I tell you what would be fun. Two things. Michael Hausch posted that he's on the 2009 code here. If you're in the chat, just post what code you're currently running. I feel that'd be fun to see in the chat, to see, who's on what code, to see how the country's, being played in different areas. While that's going on, Ed, this is my closure question. You ready? UL listing. What does UL mean?
It's Underwriters Laboratories, and I'm going to brag and say I knew that without looking it up.
All right, tell me what Underwriter Laboratories exactly means.
Exactly, I can't do
well,
that. I'll give you a good stab.
Yeah.
Underwriters Laboratories is a rating agency that predominantly is there for safety when it comes to consumer products, I guess would be a good way to put it.
So they're like the ANSI for, UL ratings.
Yeah, it's a good comparison. But if you look at a hairdryer, if you look at a lot of consumer goods, and I don't know if it's only stuff that has electricity going through it or not. I always associate the UL listing with something that has it's an electrical appliance in some form or fashion. Have you ever heard somebody say that if you do X to something, and I'm going to think condensate pumps, because this was a recent conversation I had with a couple of the folks I work with. If you cut the plug off the end of a condensate pump and hardwire it inside a furnace, that condensate pump loses its UL listing unless it was originally tested with that as a way to hook it up. Now, do you really care about that?
If it was to catch on fire, yeah, because then you could get sued.
And that's if UL says don't do that, right? Or it's not listed to do that, then
if it starts a fire,
insurance, right?
Yeah, it's exactly right. No, you brought it up, man. But I mean, if it tears the house down and they can go back to the pump that you cut the plug off of, that may be a conversation that's not going to be very fun.
Well, that's why you have insurance.
Yeah, but insurance.
In all seriousness,
insurance may not pick it up if you cut the plug off, right?
That is completely false.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. The notion that you didn't pull a permit, your insurance isn't going to cover it. That's not a thing.
Really?
If you're doing side work and you do something and it burns their house down, their homeowner's insurance won't cover it. That's not true. The insurance company and the banks, they're in bed together. Been for a long time. You have $100,000 note on your house. The bank owns your house. I burn somebody's house down. You think the bank is really going to come after me to get paid? No, the insurance company is going to pay it off. Now, the insurance company might come knocking on my door saying, "What's up?" So it's always in your best interest to have insurance. Don't be doing side work without insurance. But the homeowner themselves, they're never going to be left in a situation where they have to pay a mortgage for a house they can't live in because it's burned down, and they have to find someplace else to live at the same time. And I am just going to flat out say I am an expert when it comes to insurance, because the boss is upstairs and she's a 40-year vet working for insurance companies.
Oh, yeah.
I got to go to her Christmas party and stuff like that. I'll get 3 Manhattans in me and find somebody who wants to talk shop. And I know a lot about insurance when it comes.
What happens if I cut the plug off this pump?
The insurance company's still going to pay for the house if it burns down.
Yeah, that's fun,
now,
man.
If your state, like I have a license in my state, the licensing board, if they catch wind of this, they might have some nasty things to say to me. They're going to give me what for. I love using that term. It's just I don't know why I do, but that's a thing, and that's a conversation that I've had many times when it comes to don't do that because they might not cover your loss, and it's
good to know, Ed. Everybody, you can just let go of your companies.
No, the company still has to have insurance.
I know, man. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, I know. And playing the game with the LLC or the corpse and all that kind of stuff, working as a sole proprietor, not a good idea.
Yeah.
And I'll speak for the contractors in my state. If you don't have a contract that's at least 3 pages long and has at least 3 different places where somebody has to sign, the likelihood of you having a contract that is compliant with our Consumer Fraud Act is next to impossible. So this is my tip from working for a long time in contracting. Pay the $100 or $200 to sit down with an attorney for an hour and have them make sure that what you're doing
write you a bullshit statement that gets attached
protect
to the
yourself.
back end of all your contracts.
We not only have to understand the difference between superheat and Superman, we got to figure out how to protect ourselves from predatory consumers. And they're out there. They are out there.
That's interesting. Good advice, Ed. All right, man. I was going to do your slogan, but I forgot it.
Oh,
that's the way I see it.
That's the way I see it. Hey, I see Mike Henderson is in the chat. Are you coming next Tuesday, Mike? And I know you can't. I'm so used to telling people to unmute and speak, and they can't. But he can put it in the chat.
Yeah.
I'm doing a duct design class at the PPA in Middletown, Pennsylvania. Which, if anybody is on Netflix, they just did a thing about TMI, and I'm not talking about too much information. This is a litmus test of how old you are. If I say TMI, do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm thinking too much information.
It's 3 Mile Island. Are you familiar with 3 Mile Island at all?
No.
It was I don't know this is fact, but I'm going to say it was the worst nuclear facility accident that.
Oh yeah, it's on Netflix right now. Yeah, I did watch an episode of that. I haven't finished it. Don't spoil it for me.
That's I can't. I haven't finished it yet either. But the river that's there, the Susquehanna, where 3 Mile Island is situated, it's right up the river from where I'm doing the class next Tuesday. So
you gotta go check it out. Take some pictures.
I might now.
Is this gonna be on Snapchat?
Oh yeah. Come on.
I hear you.
Every day.
He said he's gonna miss that. He said he's I'm out with Measure Quick right now.
So he's out in Ohio, I'm gonna assume. That's I actually I had a conflict last week the week before I was supposed to go. So that's hopefully in the fall. That's on my to-do list. Wes and I are going to go and do the Measure Quick class. So
word up, man. Well, I'm going to bathe kids. Deuces. You know what I'm saying?
We done?
Yeah, I got to shut it down, man. I'm out of content.
All right.
I did the whole duct leakage video. Right. I hope people enjoyed it. I hope I brought things full circle for everybody. Right now, you had to put clamps on your duct tape when you do your jobs now. I mean, we're where we need to be.
Works for me. All right. And that's the way I see it.
There you go. All right.
Good night,
Later,
everybody.
everybody.